I am just going to dive on in here and start right now.
Yes.
Before I do, though, I wanted to say I'm going to ask you two questions that aren't directly related to pest management, and then I have a transition that will take us there very quickly.
Okay.
So just bear with me, and then we'll get it rolling. Okay, so I remember my dad, who also coincidentally is a Bob, who likes home improvement projects, watching you on This Old House when I was a kid. What's your kind of standout moment from being the host of that show?
There are many standout moments from being the host of that show. And, you know, when you've been on television for 27 seasons, it's hard to say one or the other. But one of the interesting things that happened as a result was the whole relationship with the Tim Allen Home Improvement sitcom series, which kind of brought my programming to a new audience. And it wasn't just a live ABC network audience, but it was a new audience in terms of kids. When I did that, I'd already been on the air for like 15 years, and all of a sudden, there are all these 10 or 12-year-olds who find out who I am. So, and now they're grown-ups buying houses. So anyway, that's one of the key things.
What was it like to work with Tim Allen? I know you were only on a few of the episodes.
Yeah, I was
but
really
still, you were a major part of the show for him.
Well, that was the thing. I mean, the show was inspired by This Old House, and so they realized that they wanted to make sure we weren't going to be upset. And so I was invited early on to be the guest star, and they always kind of kept it through, and it was fine. You know, I never had a problem with it.
No, it was funny. I remember that. Okay, now, Tim was always getting into trouble on the show, and I think all of us have a little bit of Tim in us. Now, one of the common household issues we can face at one point or another is coping with pests, especially during the spring and summer months. So right now, what do we have to do to be more careful during these seasons?
Yes, not to imply that Tim was a pest, but yeah, it's April, it's National Pest Management Month. And so the National Pest Management Association wants to help homeowners identify some of the common pests that you have to be aware of. And one of the key things is to take a close look at the house and figure out if you need to do something to keep the pests out. Wooden houses especially sometimes develop cracks, gaps. Somebody might drill a hole to put a cable through. Get some caulking compound and close it all up and make sure that it's nice and tight so you don't have ants or carpenter ants or termites or other bugs getting into the house and into the sidewalls. And so I think that's one of the key things to keep in mind right now at the beginning of spring, that you want to have a good tight house. That includes the screens too. Make sure that your window screens are in good repair so you don't have issues with mosquitoes coming in later on.
Yeah, for us, it's not necessarily mosquitoes. It's what are those bees? See, of course, right now I'm drawing a blank on exactly what those bees are, but they're not yellow jackets. They're
probably the carpenter bees?
Maybe that's it, carpenter bees. Yeah, I had a little hole in a screen and had a carpenter bee try to come in. One of my kids caught last year, fortunately, in time before we had an issue.
Yes, yeah.
The screen is huge.
Yeah, no, it's an important thing to be aware of is that you are sometimes just a breeding ground for all sorts of things. I mean, I think the most worrisome insect this year will be the mosquito because of the Zika virus, which everybody is becoming familiar with and which has the potential for having devastating health impact. And so you want to make sure that you are not harboring breeding grounds for these mosquitoes by eliminating any standing water that you might have in the garden and in the yard. Something as simple as dishes under pots that collect water, bad idea. Make sure that you go and water your pots regularly, but don't have any of those dishes underneath. Check the whole area of the garden to see if you have any kind of a toy or a pot or any item that might collect water, including some people might have some old automobile tires leaning up against the shed with an inch of water in them, and that is a natural, nice, dark place for them to breed. So get rid of any standing water in the garden.
Now, historically, this year, obviously the mosquito, as you said, is probably the biggest one to worry about. Historically, what have been the biggest problems in terms of pests over these months?
Well, termites really are the biggest one year to year in terms of the amount of damage they do to our homes and buildings. It's in the billions. And so homeowners should be aware of the possibility of having termite infestations, both terrestrial or in the house. If you've bought a house recently, you know that the house has to come with a certificate that says that if there have been termites, they've been dealt with. But if you've been in your house a long time and you're not aware of all of this, look for signs of termite damage. Tap on the woodwork on the inside of the house, and if something sounds hollow and you can poke into it, it could be rot, but then again, it could be termite tunnels. Look on the floor for little piles of what looks to be sawdust. It's actually more like a granular sand. It is termite frass, their excrement. And that's an indication that you have termites at work inside the house, in the walls. And if you find clues like that, then you are better off calling in professionals. You need pest control professionals to help you deal with that.
Oh, such happy thoughts right now.
But there are a lot of different things that you really need to consider partnering with pest control professionals for, because some of them are bigger problems that the average homeowner can handle. I myself had a beehive last year that had become quite enormous, and we weren't aware of it. And all of a sudden, we actually found a little puddle of honey on the floor.
Oh, no.
And this is in a guest bedroom, and nobody had been in it in a while. But anyhow, that kind of an issue requires professionals. So, learn more about all of this at pestworld.org, and don't be afraid to pick up the phone if it looks like more than you can handle.
Oh, gosh, now I know I need to walk around my house and make sure that we don't have any beehives anywhere. Bob, what other projects do you have coming up in the future?
Well, at bobvila.com, we are creating new content on a weekly basis. And, of course, we have all of the old Bob Vila TV shows from Home Again, etc. So if anybody wants to look at any of those, you can just come to bobvila.com. But in terms of pests right now, come to pestworld.org. Thanks, Sherry. Great being with you.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.